Hello everyone, welcome back to Excel Learning. My name is Abhishek sir and this is your English classroom where you are getting explanation of your English chapters. And today's chapter is for class 7 students. I have been getting many requests from my students, so I thought to make a video of this particular chapter. And this particular chapter is very fascinating. One of my favorite authors, as you all know, Ruskin Bond. So, and this particular chapter is kind of a face in the dark where we get, supernatural elements and some sense of ghost and sense of ominous. So similarly, the Overcoat is that kind of story. Okay, so without wasting any more time, let's get started with this particular chapter. I believe the book is there in front of you, and take a pencil so that you can scribble down all the points that I am going to tell you in this particular video, and do take a copy and pen so that you can note down a few intertextual questions that I am going to give you. And after the explanation, I will also discuss the justification of this title and how the narrator has used various elements to make this particular story based on supernatural natural one. So this particular explanation is going to be very beneficial for class 7 students. So keep watching and keep learning. Take the book. The Overcoat. It was clear frosty weather, and as the moon came up over the Himalayan peaks, I could see that patches of snow still lay on the roads of the hill station. I would have been quite happy in bed with a book and a hot water bottle at my side, but I had promised the Capadias that I would go to their party, and I felt it would be churlish of me to stay away. I put on two sweaters. Two sweaters. That means this particular story is set on winter season. Okay, and an old football scarf and an overcoat, and set off down the moonlit road. So see, many informations we are getting from the very first paragraph only. First of all, the weather was frosty weather. Okay, it was winter season, and the moon the moon came up over the Himalayan peaks. The few assignments were there that made the narrator happy, and the assignments were a hot water bottle and a book. Underline. You must include all these words in your answer script to look it more gorgeous. Okay, so the author was quite happy in his bed because he was having a book and a hot water bottle, but he has promised Capadia's family that he would go to their party as he had been invited. So he thought that it would be very bad, it would be very rude, it would display him as though he is a kind of arrogant kind of person if he doesn't go to the party. This is the reason he decided to go to the party. Okay, churlish means rude, essentially mean having a bad disposition. So what did he put? He put on two sweaters, an old football scarf and an overcoat. That means the very first paragraph is giving us the sense of winter season. At that time it was winter season, and right now the narrator is on his way to Capadia's home. It is a family. It was a walk of just over a mile to the Capadia's house, and I had covered about half the distance when I saw a girl standing in the middle of the road. So see, we are getting to two things. First of all, it was winter season, and then it was night. So when the author was going to Capadia's house, suddenly he saw that a girl was standing over there at the middle of the road. Okay, she must have been 16 or 17. So the age of the girl must have been 16 or 17. She looked rather old fashioned, long hair hanging to her waist, and a flamboyant sequined dress, pink and lavender, that reminded me of the photos in my grandmother's family album. So see how the author has described the girl's appearance. First of all, the girl was looking rather old fashioned. The time from where the author is belonging, the girl is not belonging to that particular time, rather she is looking kind of bit of old fashioned girl. She was having long hair up to her waist and a flamboyant squint dress, pink and lavender, and that particular the kind of dress reminded the author of a photo that he had seen in his grandfather's or grandmother's family album. So we are also getting a span of time, like the girl does not belong to this particular time, rather the girl belongs to an old time. Okay, many times before the author is writing that particular story, or the narrator who has encountered that particular girl. When I went closer, I noticed that she had lovely eyes and a winning smile. Winning smile is a keyword that is describing the girl. Okay, the girl was having beautiful eyes, lovely eyes and winning smile, like she could win anyone's heart with her smile only. Good evening, I said. It is a cold night to be out. Are you going to the party? She asked. That means the party, to the same party the girl is also going to, right? So the girl is asking the author, are you going to that particular party? That's right, and I can see from your lovely dress that you are going to. Come along, we are nearly there. So the author has observed very closely, very nicely and very attentively the attire of that particular girl, and the author could understand that that particular girl is also going to the party. So the author and the girl both are going together to the party. So see, we are getting like the author is very sensible, right? The author, the narrator is very sensible, like because seeing the girl only, seeing her attire only, he could understand that the girl is too going to that particular party. So this is one characteristic of the narrator, that he is very sensible. She fell into step beside me and we soon saw lights from the Kapadia's house shining brightly through the deodars. The girl told me her name was Julie. So the name of the girl was Julie. I had not seen her before, but I had rather been in the hill station a few months ago. So the narrator did not see the girl before. This is the first time he is meeting that particular girl. There was quite a crowd at the party. So finally they have reached to the party. There was quite a crowd at the party and no one seemed to know Julie. See, this is a twist. This is a twist. The girl is going to the party. It gives us a sense that the girl has been invited to the party, but as soon as they reach the party, the author, the narrator noticed that none of them knew the girl. The girl was not at all familiar to any one of them, those who were present at the party. I did not Everyone thought she was a friend of mine. I did not deny it. Obviously, she was someone who was feeling lonely and wanted to be friendly with people, and she was certainly enjoying herself. So she was certainly enjoying herself. That means though no one knew the girl, but the girl was enjoying herself. That means the girl was very friendly. The girl was very friendly, right? I did not see her do much eating, but she flitted about from one group to another, talking, listening, laughing, and when the music began, she was dancing almost continuously. She was completely wrapped up in the music. So the girl is having the girl is fond of music. One more characteristic of the girl, that the girl is fond of music. She likes dancing and she is very friendly. She can mug up with anyone very easily, right? Because no one knew the girl, but the girl, the girl was flitting from one group to another group group and she was talking, laughing and gossiping with all of them. As soon as the music started, she started dancing like she was enjoying the music, she was enjoying the environment of the party, and she was enjoying the companion of each and every human being present over there. It was almost midnight when I got up to go. As I was saying goodnight to my hosts and wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, Julie slipped her arm into mine and said she would be going home too. So it was midnight, and when the author bade them goodbye, Julie just caught him, and she told that he too wanted to go back home. When we were outside, I said, "Where do you live, Julie?" "At Oldsbourne," she said. "Right at the top of the hill." Right at the top of the hill. "There is a cold wind," I said, "and although your dress is beautiful, it does not look very warm. Here you would better wear my overcoat. I have plenty of protection." So we are getting the characteristics of the narrator. First of all, the narrator is very caring, right? Because when they were out, the narrator is curious also. The narrator generally asked the girl that where do you live, and she said that she lived in Wolfsburn. As the weather was very cold, and the girl was wearing just a simple kind of cloth, though it was very beautiful, a good attire, a nice attire, but the author, the narrator, told her to take his coat. That means the narrator is very caring, right? "I have plenty of protection," and that means one more, this particular sentence, "I have plenty of protection," is indicating the situation of the narrator. Like the narrator is leading quite a good life. He is having a plenty of protection. That means many sweaters, jackets, all the things. So he is leading quite a good life. She did not protest and allowed me to slip my overcoat over her shoulder. Then we started out on the walk home, but I did not have to escort her all the way. At about the spot where we had met, she said, "There's a shortcut from here. I will just scramble up the hill station." One more twist, where the author, the narrator and the girl had come to that particular place where the narrator met the girl when he was going to the party. Okay, and there was a small path through a forest, kind of forest, and the girl told that she would go from the shortcut. She knows the way. Do you know it well?" I asked. "It is the narrow path." So there was a narrow path, there had been a narrow path, and the girl wanted to take that particular path. "Oh, I know every stone of the path." Please underline, the girl knew every stone of the path. It gives us, it is indicating that very often the girl used that particular road. This is the reason she is telling that she knew each and every stone of that particular road, right? "Oh, I know every stone on the path. I use it all the time, and besides, it's really a bright night." So we are also getting an indication that the girl is quite brave, because see, at the beginning of the story we have got that the girl was standing at the midnight. Okay, sorry, it was not midnight, just a night. The girl was standing alone on the road. Right now the girl wants to go back her home, taking that particular path, and she is telling, though it was midnight, the girl is telling that it was quite a bright night. So the girl is very brave, the girl is very courageous to take the path, the narrow path through the forest alone at the midnight. "Well, keep the coat on," I said. "I can collect it tomorrow." Once again, indication of the caring nature of the narrator. She hesitated for a moment, then smiled and nodded, and then she disappeared up the hill, and I went home alone. So she hesitated and she hesitated for a moment and then smiled and nodded. So the girl hesitated, right? Like the girl did not want to take the coat. She might feel that it would be very bad, or it would be very rude, to show to behave as if the author, the narrator would go back her home just to collect the overcoat, but it might not be possible for the girl to come back or to come to the narrator's house to give him back his coat. Possibly it would be the reason that the girl hesitated at first, then she agreed. The next day I walked up to the Wolfsburn. I crossed a little brook. Brook means small stream, from which the house had probably got its name, and entered an open iron gate. But of the house itself little remained, just a roofless ruin, a pile of stones, a shattered chimney, a few Doric pillars where a veranda had once stood. So finally next day the author, the narrator, reached the girl's house, and it was quite a ruined kind of house, as if nobody has been living in that particular house since long. Okay, but the girl told, but according to the address of the girl, that particular ruined house must be possessed by the girl. So right now the the narrator is quite surprised that did he listen something wrong? Is it that particular address given by the girl? Had Julie played a joke on me, or had I found the wrong house? I walked around the hill to the mission house where the Taylors lived and asked old Mrs. Taylor if she knew a girl called Julie. Right? So finally one more family we have got, Taylor family. Finally the narrator asked one of the family members that if she knew any girl named Julie living over there. No. And she answered, no, I don't think so. She said, where does she live? At Wolfsburn. I was told, but the house is just a ruin. That means we are getting a sense that the narrator has reached to the correct address. Okay, that had been told, but nobody is living there. Nobody has lived at Wolfsburn for over 40 years. One more twist we are getting, that the lady is telling that nobody has been living in at this particular address since 40 years. The Mackinnons lived there. Mackinnons, another family, one of the old families who settled here. But when their girl died, she stopped and gave me a queer look. I think her name was Julie. Anyway, when she died, they sold the house and went away. No one ever lived in it again, and it fell into decay. But it could not be the same Julie you are looking for. She died of consumption. Consumption means a lung disease. Okay. And there wasn't much you could do about it in those days. Her grave is in the cemetery just down the road. So here we are getting a sense of ominous, like the lady is telling the narrator that nobody is living here since long time. Okay, Mackinnon's family was living over there, but after their daughter died, and the name of the girl was Julie. Now the lady is assuring the narrator that it must not have been the same Julie you are looking for, because the Julie about whom I am talking, she had already died many years before, and you can find her cemetery just below the road. Okay, you can find her, and the narrator could find her grave just below the road, just down the road. I thanked Mrs. Taylor and walked slowly down the road to the cemetery, not really wanting to know anymore, but propelled forward almost against my will. It was a small cemetery. Right now the narrator has entered the cemetery. It was a small cemetery under the Deodars. You could see the eternal snows of the Himalayas standing out against the pristine blue of the sky. Here lay the bones of forgotten empire builders, soldiers, merchants, adventures, their wives and children. It did not take me long to find Julie's grave. It had a simple headstone with her name clearly outlined on it. So finally the narrator entered the cemetery and he found Julie's grave, and something was outlined over there. Her name was written over there, scripted over there, and something had been written over there. Julie Mackinnon, 1923 to 39. With us one moment, taken the next, gone to her maker, gone to her rest. So these four lines are very important. With us one moment, that means her parents, her parents or her family members are telling that she has lived with us a moment. Taken the next means in the next moment she had been taken by God. Gone to her maker means here maker refers to God, the God who had created her. The lady, or sorry, the girl Julie had gone to her maker, just next moment gone to her rest, and gone to her rest means she is resting right now as she is not alive. Although many monsoons had swept across the cemetery, wearing down the stones, they had not touched this little tombstone. I was turning to leave when I caught a glimpse of something familiar behind the headstone. So right now the author just had a U-turn to go back his home. Then and there, just then only, he encountered something, he found something familiar. कुछ वहाँ पे था जो जाना पहचाना था. I walked round to where it lay, neatly folded on the grass was my overcoat. So what did the narrator find there? The narrator found his overcoat that he had given to Julie yesterday night. No thank you note, but something soft and invisible brushed against my cheek, and I knew someone was trying to thank me. So there he found only his overcoat. He did not find any thank you note, but at that time he could sense something, that something brushed up his cheek, and he understood, he realized that someone was there who was trying to thank him. So here we have come to the end of this particular story. I hope you got the story, you got the point. Now few important points I am going to tell you as the main theme or main points of this particular story are the characteristics. Okay, I already have told you the characteristics of the girl. The girl was very friendly, the girl was very cheerful, she was fond of music, she loves dancing, she is brave. Okay, these are the characteristics of the girl. Now the narrator sorry, the narrator is very the narrator is very caring. Okay, he is leading quite a good life, and he loved to keep his words, right? Because I mean, in the beginning of the earlier of this particular story, we have got that at first the narrator is telling that he was quite happy with his water bottle and book in his bed, but then also he thought to attend the party so that there would be a good impression of the narrator. So these are the characteristics of the narrator. Now supernatural elements, this is very important in this particular chapter. See, though if we discuss the story from the beginning once again, we have got that at the beginning of the story the narrator has sketched a romantic weather. The narrator has sketched a romantic weather, like it was a clear frosty weather. Okay, the moon was up in the sky and snow was there. So it was the romanticism was there in the weather and the way Ruskin Bond has written. But as very slowly and gradually we entered into the point, slowly the petals are removed, the petals are removed, and actual story, actual theme is revealed. Like here we are getting first one, he said, the narrator said, I saw a girl standing in the middle of the road. This is the first twist, and it also gives us an indication of something horrible, something ominous, something related to spirit, something related to supernatural activity. Like, why should a girl stand alone at the night in the middle of the road? The girl was alone over there, right? Why? So this particular indication is about an ominous environment. Okay, next, when they were returning back their home, at that time the girl said, oh, I know every stone on the path, I use it all the time, and besides it is really a bright night. Though these particular sentences show us the braveness of the girl, but it is also indicating about, it is also indicating to the ominous part, to the horror part, to the supernatural element of this particular story. Like, the girl knew that particular way very well. That means she is used to walk. She is very much habituated of walking through that particular way, that gone through the forest. All this thing. Now in the end of the story we have got that the narrator is entering the cemetery. Okay, before that, when finally the narrator had reached the girl's house and he came to know that the girl named Julie had already died, it is also giving us a sense of ominous. Now he had entered the cemetery and he found the grave over there, right? And the name was written over there, that Julie Mackinnon. This is also something related to spirit and something related to supernatural element. Now next, when he was about to go back his home, then only he found his coat that he had given to Julie last night when they were returning from Kapadia's party to their home, and there was no thank you note. Then automatically the question comes that how did his coat, I mean, why his coat was lying over there and just beside the grave of Julie? That means the girl whom the narrator met last night, it was that particular Julie whose gravestone was there just right in front of the narrator's eyes. So this is also hinting us to the supernatural element of this particular story. And lastly, we have got that there was no thank you note and there was no one to thank the narrator, but the narrator realized that a wind blew and something just brushed up his cheek as if someone was trying to thank him. So this is the realization of the narrator, possibly as it was a cemetery and as narrator was alone, so it might be his imagination, it might be the narrator's imagination. Possibly he was imagining, as we already have got that it was winter season, strong wind was there, so possibly it might be the strong wind that just touched the narrator's cheek, and the narrator felt that someone was there, something was there which was invisible and that was trying to thank the narrator. It might be, okay, it is a possible reason, though it has not been clearly mentioned in this particular story, but we can interpret this particular sentence and this particular lines like this. Now this is complete explanation. Now few intertextual questions which are very important, like what were the assignments that made the narrator happy? We already have got in the earlier part of this particular story that a book, okay, he was in the bed with his book and a hot water bottle. Okay, name the girl encountered by the narrator and describe her appearance. Where did she live? Definitely the name of the girl is Julie and she lived in Wolfsburg, and her appearance, his appearance has already been given in she must have been 16 or 17. She looked rather old fashioned. She was having long hair, flamboyant kind of dress she was wearing, pink and lavender colored, and yeah, that's all. And where did she live? I already have told you. How was Julie behaving in the party? This is very important, as this particular part is also revealing her characteristics. Okay, so how was Julie behaving in the party? Describe the house of the girl at, or that means Julie, at Wolfsburg. The ruined house you have to describe. Okay, how did Julie die? Consumption. And what did the narrator see at the gravestone? Or you can add one more question: how did the narrator feel when he about to return back his home from the cemetery? So these are few intertextual questions that are very important. I hope you have got the point, you have got the explanation. One more thing, I am extremely sorry, I forgot to discuss, that is the justification of the title. Justification of the title is very important in this particular story. Like the title of the story is Overcoat. Okay, now though the narrator and Julie are protagonists of this particular story, but then also it is Overcoat. It is that particular overcoat that made or that forced the narrator to go to Wolfsburg, and as the narrator had gone to as the narrator goes to Wolfsburg, we have come to know about the complete scenario. So the overcoat is revolving around the story, right? If the narrator would not offer the overcoat to Julie, if Julie would not receive the or would not take the overcoat, if the narrator would not go to take his overcoat back, then all the everything, the complete incident would remain unknown to us. And definitely the overcoat is the central point which around which all the incidents revolve. Okay, from that aspect we can say that the title Overcoat is completely justified. I hope you have understood the point. I hope you have jotted down all the points, keywords, and just in your book. It will help you in your examination point of view, and definitely I believe it would be the best explanation you can find on YouTube. So keep learning, keep watching, and don't forget to share the channel. Press the bell icon so that you can get regular updates. If you have any problem regarding any chapter, feel free to write to me. You can write on the comment section. You can message me on Instagram or in Facebook directly, and I promise you everyone, I will try to solve your problem. I will try to post a video on explanation of the chapter that you demand as soon as possible, and very soon we are going to post grammar videos that would help you in many ways. So keep watching, keep learning, and please share the channel with your friends so that they would get the best one, because everyone deserves the best. Thank you for watching.